Drop your pants and grab your ankles. It's time for Grillos AftershockXL with your host, Steve Grillo. How the hell did you get a TV show?
Welcome back to another episode of Grillos AftershockXL on the XL network. We're getting all over the world. I'm kind of excited what's going on. We're going to get a whole new facelift here at AftershockXL. We're going to, we're getting some new equipment, some new things. It's going to make the show a little more professional, a little better. Hope everybody's family and friends are well. I'm still stuck here in Hell's Kitchen doing my thing, continue to be strong and stay there for each other. And, hopefully little things like this in my show that, my show can bring a little happiness to your day. And I hope for you and your family too. Remember, spread the word. Please like and share. You can go to the AftershockXL store and you can buy there's some really cool merch there and stuff like that. So I just wanted to let you know, I appreciate everybody for the support and for the love. I'm always blessed to have a professional actor / celebrity / someone that I love and admire that has a very strong presence in the movie and television realm, and he's also a good friend, and I've enjoyed his company in the past, and it's a pleasure to have him on the show. Everybody, this is actor Fred Melamed. Everybody knows who you are, Fred. It's like you're one of my favorite people because you're such a nice guy and you're just so awesome. But I just love when it's just like all of a sudden I'm surprised and I'm like, Fred's on TV, which happened the other day when I was watching the new Disney Plus series Wandavision, which I thought you did a great job at. You play Vision's boss.
Right.
Among so many other roles that you've had in your career. You have about 111 credits under your belt?
Yeah, but some of those are within some of those there are many shows. Like if I have 20 Lady Dynamites that count as one credit.
I was just watching that the other day, and you were so funny in that because you're such a good manager to her, and you care about her so much. And she's just like makes your life just so difficult, but yet you're unrelenting, and you just you don't give up on her.
Well, that was kind of the idea of that show. Maria is and was a dear friend of mine, and that character is very loosely based on the person, her manager, he is in real life every bit as devoted. They're both completely devoted to one another. He's not quite the putz that we made him out to be in the television show, but the part about them being kind of devoted no matter what happens to one another, it was absolutely culled from real life. So that was an interesting thing to observe in real life. And he is actually my friend, Bruce. His real name is Bruce Smith, and he's a lovely guy and actually a very good manager. His ineptitude was part of the fun of the show.
Yeah, no, it was fun to watch that. So first I should get to the bottom line. First, how are you doing? How are you coping with all this weird things that are going on? And how's your family? Is everybody okay?
Well, to be frank, it's been a struggle. It's been difficult. It's been harder for members of my family than I think it has for me. As I often explain, I started social distancing in around 1987, so it doesn't seem so odd to me. But it's been hard. I have a kind of funny life in that when I work, I'm off very early in the morning, and when you do movies and stuff, they're very long days, and frequently they're on location. So I'm leaving Los Angeles where I live. But then when I'm not working or when I'm home writing, which is the other thing that I do, it's very long hours, essentially sitting by myself, in front of my computer. So it was not such a big shock to me, but my wife is very much used to going out. And kids, of course, are used to going to school. I have two 18-year-old twin boys. So for them, it was a big, very big change.
Now I can't believe they're 18. That's
they are 18. Yeah, I know, it's shocking especially when you're right there. It's you can't believe it. How 1 minute you're fooling around with them, and it's Thomas the Tank Engine, and you're in the playground, and the next minute it's quite something. But they're 18. But one of them has pretty severe autism, so his world is already quite limited. And he goes to a school here, not too far from where we live in Los Angeles. And of course, like all other schools, it came to a screeching halt, and they now do lessons over the computer. But that's hard for everybody, particularly hard for him. And my other son, who graduated from high school last year, was going to go to college this coming fall,
Yeah.
and elected instead. I mean, this last fall, I should say, elected instead to wait a year with us at home, for which I'm extremely grateful. He's been terrific. And he was a little young anyway. He was 17 when he graduated from high school. So he's going to go to college next fall. So he's been home with us, and he's been terrific. But as I say, it's been a big deal to deal with. And because I have a bunch of stuff that put me at very high risk, I have to be super, super careful about COVID. And I've already lost 6 friends, 6 people that I knew well. So for me, it's a very, for some people, I think it's much further away. It hasn't affected them personally so much, or they might have known somebody who got sick and they got better. It doesn't seem like much of a big deal.
Yeah. Apparently I had it, and
Really?
I tested positive for the antibodies, but I don't remember being sick.
When did you test? When did you get a test?
I got a test about 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And last January, I always get a chest cold once a year, or some type of, runny nose, sore throat, aches and pains kind of thing. And
Mhm.
it's a year, you're sick for a week and you kind of just cope with it, and then it's over and you're done. So I don't remember being that severely sick. I remember being severely drunk, being locked down and everything. We had a bunch of friends that would get together for, a Zoom chat, and we'd all just be like, we were at the bar, except we were home. But I don't remember being that sick. I've had, a couple of my friends' parents pass away, and I've had friends that got it, and they had a couple of aches and pains, and then it was over.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
yeah, it's very different. It's very idiosyncratic. It's, I have many friends that have had it, and it's not been bad. It's been like like having the flu. They usually feel very wiped out, like tired. I had something last January, which really wiped me out, where I had a fever and I felt really weak, and I had I felt quite tired and achy, and it lasted for maybe 10 days or something like that, and then it was over. And my wife had it, and my kids had it. We all had it. And then I kind of assumed maybe that was it. But then my wife was tested for antibodies, and she didn't have the antibodies. So I'm assuming that wasn't it. But who the hell knows in the final analysis? But yeah, it is. I've had so many friends pass away from it, and other friends get really sick. I'm 64. I'll be 65 in a couple of months. So it may be because of the age I am that my friends are of the age where, if they have various health issues, it can be really bad for them.
My parents are down in Florida, and basically they're both, got a target on their forehead, considering, my dad's got diabetes, my mom's got type A diabetes, she's got, breathing issues and stuff like that. But they, luckily, knock wood, in the community that they live in, they were able to get the vaccine right away.
Oh, that's good. Where do they live?
I'm not sure the vaccine, is it supposed to prevent it, or if you get it, is it supposed to help you?
Well, both. Both.
So you can go outside, and if you were exposed to it, you're not going to get it, or
it depends on the person. It's supposed with the two vaccines that we now have available. There's 2 that have been passed, and as of this spring, there'll probably be 3 that you can get. The 3rd one is the Johnson & Johnson, but the 2 we have now, the Moderna and the Pfizer. Both of those are supposed to give you about once you get the second shot, it's 2 shots.
Yeah.
You get 1 shot, and then you get another shot approximately 3 weeks later. And once a week or 2 passes after that second shot, it's supposed to give you 95% complete protection. In other words, you won't get sick at all. And for other people that may get sick, their symptoms will be, appreciably lighter, appreciably less.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to do both.
I'm sort of been, and it's funny that you say that, not that it's funny you say this, but it's funny that there's a little bit of sort of, my cousin has autism. He's about 14 years old, and he's completely happy with staying home. Like this is okay to him, because he has that social anxiety with being around people, and how like kids can be mean and pick on other kids. So he's sort of like, he's happy being home and learning from home. And he's just okay with it. But I remember when he was probably like 1 or 2, and I'd be on the phone with my cousin, because it's his son, and he'd be like, "It's weird. He focuses on something, and he didn't know what it was, and it was the motor to the refrigerator in the kitchen." Like it was like he was that focused on it, and then and he attested to being possibly because of all the vaccines that they got. I'm kind of opposed to vaccines in a way where I don't like getting the flu shot because I've never had to. I've never had that severity. I always think that possibly putting something into your body that you just don't need, like antibiotics, unless you really need them, is an issue. Do you think that any of those vaccines might have tested to any of the autism? Are you on that kind of anti-vax situation?
I would bet my life that vaccines have nothing to do with autism. I would bet my life right now.
Okay.
I'm completely, utterly convinced. And all the scientific literature, which I take very seriously, there has never been any scientific evidence at all, that vaccines have a causative relationship with autism. It's true that certain people have take vaccines and have reactions to vaccines, but when you look at it, I mean, forgive my proselytizing, but when you look at it from the big picture, vaccines in general do so enormously much more good that it's like saying, are cars good to have? People get killed in cars. Well, they do, but the good that cars do so far outweighs the bad that we shouldn't talk about banning cars or saying, I don't want to ride in a car. Vaccines are absolutely essential to modern day health. And as we now know, they not only protect you as an individual, they also protect the community in which you live, because there are many people whose immune systems are so compromised that they can't take vaccines. And by taking a vaccine yourself, you help those people because the community is not exposed to whatever the germ is that we're concerned about. Now, you bring up another point, which is antibiotics, which is a totally different point. In my estimation, you're completely right that antibiotics are overprescribed and often taken by people who really don't need them. And the effect that gives, as I'm sure you know, is that it makes strains of bacterial infections resistant to antibiotics, which we don't want. That's bad. So undoubtedly, antibiotics are overused.
Yeah,
people often.
My mom was the type of person, and God bless her. You know, she's the type of, she still kind of is the fact that, you know, whatever comes out of the doctor's mouth is basically from God himself, kind of like where she's like, oh, the doctor just said. I was like, but Mom, doctors don't always get things right. It's always good to, thank God I have a very good friend that's a doctor where I could always call him up and go, is this right or is this wrong? But, you know, when I was a child, like if I had a cough or something like that, it was like, well, the answer was you take antibiotics. When I was around
98% of colds, I'm making that number up, but a very high percentage of colds and respiratory infections that people get, the vast majority are viral. And when they're viral, antibiotics have absolutely no effect on them at all. The reason that they give antibiotics prophylactically, like if you have asthma, for example, I have asthma. Now, if somebody has a really bad situation with asthma where they have bronchitis, they'll have their lungs get fluid in them. And once the lungs have fluid in them, there's a significant chance that fluid can become infected. So they will give you antibiotics as a preventative, prophylactically, to prevent you getting an infection. But there's no question that antibiotics have been overused, and they're having to always find new antibiotics because the way nature works is really interesting. The way nature works, you know, why is the vaccine, not the vaccine, why is the virus that we're talking about now, the COVID virus, why are we having all these new strains? That's a good question. The answer to that question is because the way nature works is there are constantly mutations in all living things. And whatever the mutation is that makes the thing live more easily, more viable, that mutation gets replicated. That's the whole thing that Darwin figured out. So the reason the new virus, like the one that they discovered in England, and now there's a new one in California where I live, which is seems to be taking most of the cases. The reason that the new ones keep popping up and keep becoming so start covering everything like a blanket is because whatever ones are adapted best are the ones that survive and that knock out all the others that are weaker. So the same thing is true with infections. Bacterial infections are living things, believe it or not, and have a built-in desire is not the right word, but have a built-in structure where they want to replicate. That's the whole idea of life, is to keep life going. So they keep trying to outsmart the antibiotics. I mean, I'm talking as if they had a brain. They don't, but that's the way natural selection works.
Yeah. So I get it's always like you just don't know. It's like I always equate a little bit of a doctor to almost like a car mechanic, where you go in and your car is sick and they can tell you anything's wrong with it. And if you don't know your car well enough, you're going to go, okay, and just agree with whatever the mechanic says.
Well, here's what I think about that. You're absolutely right that doctors don't know everything and doctors make mistakes, right? But just like the mechanic, like I have a Tesla is my car. A Tesla is like a computer on wheels. Everything on it is electronic and is controlled by various computers, right? Now, the guy that I can only take the car to Tesla because they're the only ones that fix it. But I can tell when something is wrong with it. I mean, it's obvious to me. And sometimes I have a pretty good idea of what it is. But the guy looking at it might be wrong also, but he's going to be a lot better informed than I am. So his chances of knowing are a lot better than mine. Same thing with a doctor.
Yeah.
Doctors are not always right, but who should I go to if not a doctor?
Yeah.
And, you can tell kind of how, okay, this gets into it.
I know. I want to talk about what you're working on. I know this is a very in-depth conversation and very intelligent, and I appreciate what you're talking about because I needed to hear about that vaccine analogy with the car and everything, and because I'm just always like skeptical when shit comes to that. But let's explain to everybody how we have a very close mutual friend that says hello and says that they're doing very well. They want you to know that they're going to reach out to you and say hello and catch up. But our mutual friend sort of like it was kind of funny because our first time that we ever met, I was actually still doing interviews on the red carpet for Howard Stern show. Yeah. And it was at a Serious Man premiere, which you did another awesome job. Like you're one of the, like my friend Mike Starr, you always hit a home run every time you're on screen. And you have such a great stage presence, but it was just kind of funny because I remember you were doing the red carpet and I was like, oh, our mutual friend. And you were like, oh, so that's you. It was just kind of a fun way to like introduce each other on the red carpet for the, what was it? A Serious Man, which was also directed by the Coen brothers, correct?
Right, exactly. That was about 12 years ago that happened.
Now you've stepped over a line here because now you are now part of the Marvel universe, which is a huge thing for anybody. I always say I'll never consider I made it into business until someone makes an action figure of me, which would probably never happen. But like it would be kind of, there you go. Yeah,
I have an action figure. It looks like a big piece of clay, a big dumpy piece of clay. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
You're working with whatchamacallit from that '70s show. I had mutual friends of ours who were very good friends.
Deborah Jo Rupp.
Yeah, she has it was a gay couple that used to come into the restaurant. They were best friends, all three of them.
Oh, with Deborah.
Yeah. She said, "Stop it, just stop it." But she seems like she's fun to work with because our mutual friends sort of like put her on the phone with me and stuff because I was a big fan of that show. But you've worked with like everybody. Who was your favorite director to work with?
Gosh, that's a hard question. There's a lot that I love working with.
Who gave you the most leeway that let you do what you needed to do?
Well, actually, all the good ones do that, really.
Yeah.
And people are always surprised when I say that. For example, the Coen brothers, before I had worked with them, I was a fan of their movies. I love their movies. And I traveled sort of a little bit in their orbit because I had gone to drama school with Fran McDormand and John Turturro, and I knew John Goodman. So I kind of knew people that were in their, in their retinue, in their stock company, but I didn't really know them very well. And I had auditioned for Barton Fink, which is now, Christ, 30 years ago, I think. Barton Fink is a long time ago. I had auditioned for Barton Fink for the part of the movie executive in Barton Fink, if you remember that movie. Which I didn't get. A wonderful actor did it, and he was nominated for an Oscar. He was terrific in it, but I came in second, according to Ethan Coen. But I was shocked because their movies look so carefully constructed. I was shocked when I actually worked with them that they give you so much rope. They really give you a lot of freedom. They write very, very fully realized characters and situations. When you read a script of theirs, you get a very clear idea of the world that these characters live in and what the characters are like. And they like you to stick very specifically to the words that they write. They don't like you to, they will allow you to improvise, but the improvisations rarely wind up in the movie. So they like you to stick to their words. But as far as your performance goes, they give you a lot of leeway. And this was a big shock to me because their films look so carefully constructed. But they take the casting very seriously, and they don't cast things fast. They take it, even the small part. You'll notice in the Coen Brothers movies, even the small parts are so well cast. You know, you could see, like for example, No Country for Old Men, which is one of their great movies in my opinion. Anyway, there's a scene in that about halfway through the movie where Anton Chigurh, the bad guy in the movie, goes into a gas station, kind of in the middle of nowhere, and he has this interchange with a guy that runs the gas station, an actor called Gene Smith, and it's so great. It's just this little scene where he threatens this guy, and the guy initially kind of pushes back a little bit, and then he realizes how serious it is, and he flips a coin. Do you remember this scene?
Yeah.
Country?
Live or die. But he had that thing, that the cow pressure thing, where he just like put it to your forehead.
Even that guy was I couldn't forget that scene. There's only one scene in the movie, but he's so great. So they cast things very carefully, and then they kind of let the actors run, which is what all the good directors do. Really good directors. This surprises some people who don't know much about acting in movies, but really good directors don't tell you a whole lot. They have a gift for just saying a couple of things, and the things that they say, somehow they have this ability where those few things that they say can light something up for you, can really make something real if you're having a hard time.
Yeah, I remember, and it's on one of those things that pops up on Facebook and stuff where it's like, some of the most iconic ad-lib scenes, and then going back to get my friend Mike Starr, like I know Mikey very well, and I'm a bundle of nervous energy, so I'm constantly, my hands are constantly moving, tapping something, it's just an anxiety thing, and he's not like that. So when like the one time that he had enough of me tapping on something, he grabbed me and he made the face like he did, like when he was in the van scene with Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey, where he was angry, like, that's enough. And at that moment, I realized that Mikey that wasn't part of the script. That was Mikey really being annoyed at both of them. I was like, that's the face. And improv to me is like, that's how I got any acting roles. The first time I ever acted was in an off-Broadway play, and I had no interest in acting whatsoever. But I was working on the Stern Show. I really wasn't making much money. This off-Broadway play called Grandma Sylvia's Funeral contacted the show, and they were looking for some publicity, and they were willing to put me in there. But I took an acting class once in Hunter College just because I was a communications major, and the theater minor was the easiest way I can get through. So part of the requirements were to take an acting class. And I had this wonderful teacher. He was a Greek guy. He was really an amazing acting coach. I wish I could find him again, because I seen him make things happen for people that didn't understand the scene. But you know how it goes. So I used to sit there in class, and everybody in class was trying to be a working actor. And I felt so bad for them. I was like, they're complaining about their headshots, not getting auditions. I was like, man, I would hate to live that life. And then because they just seemed so miserable, because they were working so hard, and they wanted it so bad, but it was so hard, and so the field is so flooded with so many people that want to do the same thing. But so now I had this monologue I had to learn, and I learned it, and that was my final, and I passed the class. But I was like, I'm done with this. So now Grandma Sylvia's was an interactive play, and it was basically all improv. So basically, we had a couple of beats where, we had to hit a couple of beats here and there, but maybe I had one thing on stage where I got to go up and had to recite lines. But I went down there with the attitude of I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. And the only thing that got me the part was my ability to ad lib, which to me is just basic bullshitting, which I've got through most of my college and high school careers, through everything, and mostly not getting my ass beat by my mother. So the improv thing, then of course I fell in love with it. I got a part on NYPD Blue, and then I sort of my sort of career took off like that. And it wasn't until like on the set of Private Parts, because I was a PA on there, where I really learned what it was like to be in the movie business and to study. Like, I almost quit because I had this one PA that just didn't want me to be there, and he made my life miserable. And it wasn't until one of my best friends, I was going to leave. I was like, I'm done with this shit. Fuck it. And one of my friends goes, so what's it like on a movie set? And I go, oh, it's such a pain in the ass. The lighting guy has got to come in, and the electric's got to come in, and then the gaffer's got to come in, and then they got to turn the stage around, and this person, and there's transportation, and there's this, and then the art department. And I went, oh shit, I didn't know any of that shit 2 weeks ago. I'm learning. So I really started to analyze Betty Thomas's script and how she shot the thing. And then I sort of really I was like, I don't want to be a PA. I want my own trailer, and I started to, actually pursue it a little more so. And that's where, so how did that happen for you? What made you go, this is the way I want to go? Was it something that you've been wanting to do your whole life, or did you fall into it?
No, it was a backdoor thing. It was weird, because my parents, I was around it my whole life because my father was a television producer. In the early days of TV, my father worked with this guy called Nat Hiken. I grew up in New York. And my father worked with this guy called Nat Hiken, and he worked on, you're probably too young to remember the shows that my dad worked on. He worked on Car 54, Where Are You?
Yeah, sure.
Sergeant Bilko.
Yeah.
Do you remember those shows? I'm surprised.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe reruns. So my dad was
Fred Gwynn in that as well? No.
Huh?
Was Fred Gwynn in Car 54?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Anybody that doesn't know that, younger people, that was Herman Munster from the Munsters.
Right. Before the Munsters, Fred Gwynn came to popularity. Fred Gwynn was a very interesting guy. I knew him well.
Really?
Harvard-educated, brilliant guy, fantastic painter, very kind, warm guy. But he played Muldoon on this show that my father produced, Car 54, Where Are You? And my parents also had a house in Fire Island, which we went to in the summers and the weekends. And there was a very show busy crowd also in Fire Island. So I was raised around it. But I remember, when I was a kid, my father telling me that life in show business was tough. But I was always, I always wanted to be when I was a kid, I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Wow.
And then I always wanted to be a writer. And when I got to college, I had gone to high school with this guy, same high school guy, a couple of years older than me, was my friend. And he used to write these little crazy plays and then direct them at both in high school and college. And because I knew him, he asked me to be in the play that he had written when we got to college, and I did, and I kind of liked it. And I went to Hampshire College, which was very free, kind of hippie atmosphere where you could kind of do whatever you wanted. Very little was required of you. So people kept doing plays and asking me to be in them, and I enjoyed it. I liked it, but I never thought I would do it for a living. And then the last year that I was there, my fourth year, these two women came to where the college was. There's a whole bunch of 5 colleges all together that kind of cooperate in the Western Massachusetts. And they started a company called Shakespeare and Company up in Western Massachusetts, a company of people, all English-speaking people, but from all over the world, from Canada, the United States, Great Britain, South Africa, other places where they spoke English, to do mostly classical stuff, Shakespeare, Moliere, that kind of stuff. So Tina Packer, the woman who started this company, asked me to join the company, which I did. And then I thought, well, this really is something that I think I do want to actually do with my life. So it wasn't always an ambition of mine, although when I was a very young kid, I thought it would be really cool to be an actor. I used to love, when I was a kid, we had black and white television. This is before the days of color television, believe it or not. My parents bought a new TV, and they made the incredibly dumb mistake of giving me this little black and white TV.
That's what happened to me. I had a little black and white TV. I used to watch Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days on it.
And I would stay up all night, every night. I'd stay up all night. Yeah. I was exhausted in school because I would love to stay up and watch movies and, TV shows like really late into the early morning hours. And one of the shows that I loved was Tarzan, not shows, but movies, all the old Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies.
I love Johnny Weissmuller.
And I used to have this. Also, I always, all my life to this present day, I've always had trouble sleeping. I've always been a really bad sleeper. I sleep late and get up, go to bed late and can't sleep unless I do that. And I used to pretend when I was a kid that I had this TV show where I would take a book and I would read it to the kids. That would be Andy Devine had a TV show on Disney, whatever it was, on the Disney Wonderful World of Color. where he would begin reading a story and then it would transition to a film. So I used to pretend that I was like Andy Devine, that I would get a book out of my bookshelf and read it, and I would pretend I was reading it to kids, other kids, which is kind of exactly what I wound up doing.
Well, it's Andy Kaufman sort of did the same thing when he was a kid. He always pretended there was another audience in a show, and sort of improv a bunch of different howdy doody things and stuff. Were you into superheroes when you were a kid? Was it Superman?
Yes, yeah. I originally started in the DC, world. Like most people, I liked Superman, Batman, all those guys. And then a friend of mine, slightly older than me, said, "Oh, you should check out Marvel. Marvel's really cool because the kids it's much more like real life."
Yeah. So this is a big thing for you being in a part of the Marvel universe?
Well, it's a big thing for anybody in the sense that
being a fan of Marvel and knowing that now you have a hook in there that you'll always be a part of it. That's like that's a pretty big thing, no?
Yes, definitely. And I must say, I really admire Kevin Feige because he really he wanted and continues to want to kind of shake things up. They have the most successful kind of broad blanket in show business that exists now. Marvel is an enormous.
You're in black and white. You've actually gone into black and white.
That's cool. And he's taking a significant risk, because it's very different from anything else that's ever been created in the MCU. And also, a lot of people that are Marvel fans obviously are not old enough to remember a lot of the references within the early shows of Wandavision. So I admired very much the fact that he was doing, something kind of risky, and I think it was noticeably enjoyable, especially for Lizzie Olsen and Paul Bettany, who I got to be friends with, while making it, because it's so entirely different from anything they ever got to do under the usual Marvel kind of conditions. Paul Bettany is a terrific actor. Well, they both are wonderful actors, but I think a lot of people didn't realize how funny Paul Bettany is. He's skilled at everything. He's very good at doing dramatic stuff, and he's really funny too.
Wow, how long do you guys have to wait before he gets his makeup on? Like, I know, is he in full Vision makeup while you're doing that, or when he becomes I know he switches back and forth because he's Vision, but
I think there are certain elements of how things are done that I'm under penalty of death to reveal. I think that is one of them.
Well, I don't think I can reveal. When he's in black and white, is he in full Vision makeup, or is it a different version of Vision's makeup?
Again, I don't think I should. I think all the magic tricks of how things are done, I should keep secret.
Yeah, we want to keep you in the universe.
I also think not just for my own welfare, but I think to keep. I even though it might be interesting, I think it's more interesting to not know how certain things are done.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Now, does this kick open a door for you now? Are you I'm sure everybody's very happy with your work. Are you able to maybe finagle your way into other Marvel movies because of this now?
We shall see. There may be a fat, overweight, kind of like rabbinical superhero in the future. You never know.
I think they called him the Hebrew Hammer. It was on.
Yes, I remember that. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I hope so. I would certainly enjoy it.
Now, how did it go down? Like, when did you shoot that? By the way, obviously, was it like last year?
Yeah, it was like last September, October, November, in there.
So it was during COVID or not during COVID?
Oh no, it was long before COVID. But then COVID came. COVID came in the middle of what the shooting schedule was.
So they're completely locked down out there. The industry is not taping anything.
No, there are people working and attempting to work. The problem is, I mean, the unions have made a real effort to create protocols that make it safe for people. They've struggled to do that because people want to work and everybody wants the business to go on. The problem is, at least from my perspective, that there keep on being these breaches where somebody gets COVID, and then it's very hard because if you're, for example, if you're working like in Los Angeles, where I live and work most of the time, crewmen and actors and everything, they go home to their families. They're not living in a bubble. So it's very hard to keep people under those circumstances safe and free from being exposed. So what keeps happening is they keep starting up various projects, and people wind up getting sick. And when somebody gets sick on a set, they then have to close the whole set.
Yeah. Well,
I
I saw
have,
the Tom Cruise tirade.
yeah.
He's like, people are trying to make a living. I kind of understood what he said, and he's a producer, and he's, responsible for production as well as being an actor in front of the camera. So, I kind of understood why he kind of threw a fit.
Yeah, and especially with a big budget movie like his movies are, people are looking to them for kind of leadership to see that things can go on as they have. I have a friend, Michaela Watkins, a dear friend of mine, who is one of the stars of a show called The Unicorn, which is shot on the Paramount lot here in Hollywood, where I am. And Paramount is a huge studio.
Been there.
I know you in your other life. I'm sure you've been there several times.
Yeah.
So Paramount is a big place with a lot of different stages. She told me they were the only show working. All the others in the last month or so, or maybe month and a half, had been shut down because people kept getting sick.
Well, it's like the sports teams too, like all of a sudden they're canceling a basketball game because, the other team got sick, or somebody on the team got sick, or 4 or 5 guys. It's like, how do you tell like a 22-year-old millionaire that you can't go out?
Well, I mean, it's very, very tough. That's the problem. I don't know if this is really true, but I read somewhere that if everybody just stayed in their house for like 4 or 5 weeks and didn't go out, didn't go to, anywhere, but literally just stayed at home, that the virus would be pretty much over. I don't know if that's really true, but I read that.
We did that already.
Well, but not everybody kept to it. That's the point.
I can say that because I was an essential worker. On top of doing this, I was doing a beer and liquor rep, and we were.
That's certainly essential, no doubt about it.
Or definitely, So I had to be out there, but I was very careful as far as the mask and sanitizing, but part of my route was down on Avenue D, and like like by Houston Street and stuff, and there's a projects right there. They didn't care. They were in the streets having parties, and they had radios out and chairs, and they were all sitting around. They didn't really follow what was going on. Where if you went any other neighborhood in New York, there was a ghost town. But anything from Avenue C and D, people just were out there, no mess, nothing. I made sure that I did my due diligence on my end, but they were out there every day, and it's like it's just shit like that. That you're right. If they don't all lock themselves down, it's not going to go away. But I was good.
And where I live,
New York, it was 80 to 85% people locked down.
No, I know. And where I live in LA, you can't. I mean, we're having a nightmare here now. It's unbelievable now. I mean, if you have a heart attack, you're in bad shape. You can't get into a hospital. There's 8-hour waits. People sitting in ambulances with strokes and heart attacks.
Wow.
It's a nightmare.
You know what? New York, everybody's on top of each other. LA, it's kind of spread out. You're all in cars. There's very little physical. You can go around and get shit done without. You can have limited physical contact. It's like in New York,
you're right, but
subway on a bus or in a bar. Like.
You're right, but we had a strange thing here, which was our governor, who's a good governor, Newsom, was very sort of proactive at first. So we had the first lockdown, the first effective lockdown in the country, long before New York. But people tired of it, and then there was this whole backlash thing of, oh, it's not really that bad, and I want to go back to work, and it's people are overblowing how dangerous it is and stuff like that. So there was this big sort of backlash thing that happened here. And also, California is, not to paint it with too broad a brush, but is the land of, I want what I want and I want it now, and don't you fucking tell me what I can do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that kind of, thought in California.
And he had to put the hammer down and just shut everybody up and shut them in their house.
Well, still, I mean, where we live in a suburb, in what's called the San Fernando Valley, to the north of most of Los Angeles, a huge suburb. And every time I drive around or even walk around, I go for walks with my kids, just to get out of the house. You see people, a significant number of people with no masks. When it was Christmas time and Hanukkah time, I saw people all the time going to other people's houses with carrying, cakes and food
Yeah.
that they had made and shit like that. And people just don't really want to believe it, or don't believe that it's serious, or don't believe it applies to them. Now, there's something else that I know we went far afield talking about vaccines, but we live in this time where people think that anyone who has a megaphone, anyone who has a Twitter account, anyone who has a TV show, anyone who has anything where they can be heard by the public, that all voices are equally trustable, that there's no such thing as an authoritative voice. That's not true. If you read something in the New York Times, you can be pretty sure that they've checked it very carefully. But people have been led to believe that there are conspiracies, that there's no authoritative truth, and that's why we have this strange world that we're living in, where there are camps convinced of things that there's no factual evidence to prove at all.
I know. It's funny. I'm not. I have friends that are conspiracy theorists, and there are. I don't believe everything that I read in the paper or what people say. I think there is some other things, but if I can pull it up real quick. And I'm obviously not going to give my friend's name, but he did post something yesterday where, if it was true, it'd be pretty terrifying. And this was supposed to happen today. So okay. Where is it? Give me 1 second, buddy. Okay. This is it. This is directly from the military. Yes, I have famous friends who get intel. The last 4 years are all coming down to the next few weeks. According to the latest schedule, everything will be exposed sometime between Sunday afternoon and Monday night. The timer has been set for those 2 particular days. During this time, the emergency broadcasting system will be activated. President Trump will send out a message. My fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. There will be 7 presidential text messages from him via Air Force One. One following the message, the storm is upon us, that puts us under full global martial law. Via the EBS on authorized devices, there will be an 8-hour video played 3 times a day for 10 days straight, with video confessions of high-profile elite individuals being exposed for their crimes against humanity at their military tribunals. While the movie is being played, 500,000 people plus will be taken down worldwide. This repetitive movie will be extremely painful for most of us because it involves people we thought we could trust committing unthinkable crimes. It goes on and on and on, but
when is it supposed to happen?
That the emergency broadcast system is going to be activated, and that President Trump.
When does it say?
Excuse me.
When is this supposed to happen?
It's today or tomorrow. So I don't subscribe to those kind of crazy conspiracy theories. Like that's a whole nother level of extreme. But it's just interesting how it can get to that level, real quick. But I'm always cautious to, think about what I'm reading and why are they putting it in there. And, I try to be cautious, not crazy,
Well, here's a question for you. Why do you think people would rather believe that everything is being controlled, that there is a conspiracy, that there's a massive secret effort? Why do you think people would rather believe that?
Because they don't have answers.
Yeah, I think you're right.
With social media now, I remember reading, there was the Post, the Times, the Daily News, and Newsday, whatever. There wasn't no social media platform where people could go on and really discuss this. You talked about it on the phone with one friend,
Right.
So I think social media has opened up a can of worms. But so it's almost time to wrap it up because I try to keep it within an hour. So what was the first big break? What was your big, oh, wow, I made it in this business?
In 1986 or 87, I did a film with Woody Allen, the first of 7 films that I did with Woody Allen, called Hannah and Her Sisters. And I had a small part in that. I played a doctor, but it was a scene where he thought he was going to die from brain cancer. So people remembered it.
Yeah.
So after the film came out, my agent called me up and said, "Go buy Mad Magazine." So I ran down to the newsstand and bought Mad Magazine. And there in Mad Magazine was a picture of me, not a picture, a caricature of me talking to Woody Allen in one of the frames of their parody of Hannah and Her Sisters.
I got to, that's one of the biggest thrills of my life is they did a parody of Howard in Mad Magazine, and they did a little drawing of me with a potato and a turban because he used to call me Gunga Din because I used to bring him water all the time. So it was, that's the scene right there?
Oh, The scene with me and Woody Allen, you mean? That's not the scene, but it's a scene like that where I'm a doctor. I'm sitting behind a desk and I talk to him. Anyway, so when I saw that that thing in Man, I thought, wow, I really made it in show business. But as far as people recognizing me, A Serious Man, which is relatively recent, that's 12 years ago, that put me on the map in a kind of a different level. You know, that made me people really know who I was.
It was a great scene where our mutual friend used to bring it up. You know, like oh, I can't. I'm having a brain fart right now. Where it's basically like, you have to leave the house. What was that like? You know, this is.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was a scene in a diner. Me and I don't want to spoil the film for people that might not have seen it.
Yeah.
But the idea of the film is I'm the villain in that film.
Yeah.
It's kind of particularly unusual, kind of creepy villain whose whole method is that he sort of hypnotizes people with this very soothing, massaging kind of manner that he has in his voice.
You don't live here anymore. Like,
right. So it's particularly sort of nasty and icky, but he does it in this sort of velvet glovey way.
Yeah.
That was interestingly, that was the first scene that we shot of the whole movie. It was supposed to take place at a restaurant called Embers, which is in Minneapolis, where the Coens are actually from, was a chain of kind of mid-level, kind of Denny's-ish restaurants that people used to go to.
What was the character's name? Not yours, the other character?
Larry.
Okay, yeah. You had to go, Larry. And
yeah.
It was funny. We just it was something that we always said. We always use that line back and forth. It was very funny.
Well, when I met Joel and Fran McDormand have a son, Pedro, who he's now in his 20s, but then he was a young teenager. And he used to run around the house doing imitations of me. I was extremely flattered by his doing imitations of me. You know, it was very nice.
Yeah, cool. So, what's was that A Serious Man? That's your favorite movie? That's the one that sort of like put you more like. Did you enjoy the like? Give a little like backlight story to the Marvel thing, because that's really hot right now. That's one of the biggest trending shows on the internet, the biggest channel on the internet. It just surpassed Netflix. So there's a lot of traffic.
They really surpassed Netflix? Wow.
They surpassed Netflix.
After like 6 months or whatever it is. It's not been very long.
Yeah.
Well, it was a big thrill for me because it's such a giant behemoth, and I have many friends, you know, who are part of it already. But it was a great thrill to be a part of it. You know, I certainly hope that my presence in some form or other continues. And it's interesting for somebody to take, as I said, the degree of risks that I think are being taken by Kevin Feige and other people too, to continue to have it develop and be really interesting. I'll tell you quickly a story about Robert Downey Jr. I was a counselor in a camp called Stage Door Manor when I was in drama school. I went to Yale Drama School, and while I was there, I worked in this theater camp called Stage Door Manor. And many people that went on to stardom were campers at this camp, including Robert Downey Jr. And years after that, his first big movie was a film directed by James Toback called The Pickup Artist, with him and Molly Ringwald. And I was also in that film. So when we were doing the film together, he had just gotten off. He did like a half a season on Saturday Night Live. People don't remember that about him.
Oh, I remember it. It was horrible.
he was off it.
Was that Michael Hall?
Right. This movie was kind of a big opportunity for him. This movie called The Pickup Artist. So while we were doing it, he was kind of nervous, and he was very good in it, but he was a little worried. And I said to him, you know, let me tell you something. I have a real feeling that you're going to be a really big star. And he said, really? You really think that? I said, yes. I just have this conviction. You have this quality that I think is really great. And I just think you're going to be a giant star. And he was so effusive and so pleased because we knew each other and all that. He was so every Christmas I send him a card saying, hang in there, Robert. I know it's going to happen for you.
That's great. Now, you know, he definitely watched that show. He's like the prince of the Marvel Universe. And does he reach out and go, wow, Fred, so welcome to the family? Or could you use that as an example? Like,
not yet.
Yeah. Say, yo, all right, so I got this far. How can we go a little further? Come on. RD, what do they call him? RD Downey, yeah, RDJ, whatever.
I think honestly, he's had a terrific run, but he said publicly that he's kind of had, I think he's had
Well,
his fill of it. I think I don't know personally.
well,
But
yeah, they waive a big paycheck in front of you. It's really hard to turn it down. But they're talking about, because he's, John Favreau is Mr. Mandalorian now, and he's Mr. Disney Plus, and there's a character probably in the next season that was not introduced in the regular Star Wars universe, but inside the Rebels and the cartoon series, and it was Grand Admiral Thrawn, who they mentioned in one of the episodes, and now there's talk about him playing that, because obviously him and Favreau are like this. So it'd be interesting for him to come into it. I think it should be John Hamm or Justin Cumberbatch. What's his first name? Alton Cumberbatch?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'll think of it.
I'm a Star Wars geek, so it's like but he might be coming into the
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah, but I can't tell you how happy I am. Obviously, I know you're going to be, from years to come, you're still going to be in all these series and movies. I hope that Marvel Universe is smart enough to bring you into more things. I'd like to see you on The Mandalorian. That would be great.
I would love that. That would be a great joy for me. I'm a bit of a Star Wars geek myself.
Did you watch The Mandalorian?
Honestly, I just started.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not ruining anything. I don't like giving spoilers, but obviously you must have already got the hype that the last episode of this season is something huge happens.
Yes, I heard that.
Groundbreaking, and it's pretty amazing. I famously gave away a spoiler while I worked on the Howard Stern show.
Oh, you can't do that.
No. Well, this is back. This is I could say it now, but I don't know why, because growing up in Brooklyn, I'm surprised I never really got into the Alien franchise when all my friends did. I didn't understand the big thing about the one guy being a robot. So they did that new Alien relaunch probably in like 95 or whatever, 96, because I was still there. My cat, cut it out. Sorry, my cat's in a bag. So it was, and I didn't know it was a big deal that Winona Ryder was a robot. And I hated the movie because I went to go see it. So I reviewed it the Friday before it came out, the Thursday before it came out on the show.
You tipped it? Oh, no.
I was like, yeah, and it was really stupid. And it turns out Winona Ryder's a fucking robot. And they were like, oh, what did you say that for? I can't believe that. You just ruined the movie. Everybody started calling up, screaming at me. Then I had to go to the office, and the people were screaming at me. And I got on the street, and people were screaming at me. So I learned real quick not to ruin spoilers, because I always got my ass beat. People were generally, I've been waiting for this movie to come out for a year and a half, and you just fucking ruined it, So, and especially it's New York, I had to watch my back for a good week. But is there anything you need to plug, like your Twitter or Facebook account, that you'd like to get out there?
I don't do Twitter, but I have some interesting films that'll be opening in the next year. One called Together, which I think everybody will enjoy. Another one, let's see.
Are they coming on Netflix?
I don't know where they will be yet, because they've just been. Another one called.
Please let me know. I would love to help out.
Baby, yeah, and I'll tell you, and on some other interesting things too. There's a guy that I've been collaborating with for years. We're about to do our fourth film together. A guy called S. Craig Zoller, wonderful writer director, very interesting guy. And I'll have another film where I star opposite Vince Vaughn. That will be probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years from now.
That's it's crazy that you can't. Everybody's watching everything from home. I miss going to a movie theater. I could tell you that, and it's good. Yeah, you have those couple of things in the bank before everything went down. And if you do get anything, I hope it's a safe set and everything like that. And are you actively auditioning right now? Is it something that's
I've turned down 5 things in the last month.
Oh, wow.
One of them was a David O. Russell movie, big movie with David O. Russell. One was a villain part opposite John Hamm, who was a friend. Things I really regret having to turn down. I've been counseled by my doctor not to set foot on a set until I'm vaccinated.
Okay.
So I have to wait. That's just the way it is.
Soon, man. We need more of Fred out there in the universe.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that.
And stay in touch from that. When those new things come out, you can come on, and hopefully, I'm getting a green screen in here. It's going to be looking a lot different, and I'm going to make it more of a professional situation. And the numbers are going up every week. Again, we're on. There's F Sharp Tax Management, Sterling Assault, who helps me out. They got to do all my jewelry. There's the AftershockXL ring. My buddy Alfie at Sterling Assault. mention Grillos AftershockXL, and you will get 10% discount. He's done those rings as well. And F Sharp Tax Management, Richard at Frenzy. If you want to get, he's actually one of the best tax people I've ever got. He specializes in people in the entertainment business. He saved my ass a couple of times. And then don't forget about, definitely saved my ass. And
don't
then,
want to be doing that show from jail. No good.
Yeah, no. Bright Shot, the best LED light in the business. But you can subscribe for AftershockXL. Oh, there's the new it's an air purifying system for sets right there.
Really?
Yeah, it goes through UV light, and it goes through all these different chambers, and it comes out like 99.9% pure.
I gotta stick my head in there.
Yeah, it could clear up a room. There's a lot of details. We're waiting for just the scientific information to come back before we can actually guarantee what it does. But it'll go, all the air blowing in will come in through one end and blow out the other, and it'll blow out pure air. There's some big news. It's being tested in a laboratory by people that know what they're doing. And once they have the laboratories like thumbs up, there's some big news coming out of that. It'll make your life on set a lot easier.
Great. I look forward to that.
iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Stitcher, and also on YouTube. And there's Grillo, Instagram, Grillos AftershockXL, or Grillovator, and Twitter, I'm at Steve Grillo. So you can find me there. Fred, thank you so much. Give my love to your family, please, and stay strong. We'll get through this soon enough.
Thank you. You too, and everybody listening. Thank you for your support.
Everybody, Wandavision, Disney Plus. You can't miss Fred. He's awesome.
Thank you.